Hello lovely viewers, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful News official YouTube channel, your top destination for the most explosive CBS soap updates. Make sure to smash that subscribe button and give this video a huge thumbs up. The Bold and the Beautiful recap for Friday, July 18th, reveals that Liam Spencer celebrated his excrescence-free brain checkup while John Finnegan looked like he couldn't shake a strange feeling. In Liam's room at the Spencer manse, the nanny tended to him while Bill Spencer pushed his son to rest and just concentrate on surviving. Bill ultimately went out in the hall since some callers had arrived for Liam. Those callers included Finn, Hope Logan, and Steffi Forrester, so Bill did his stylish to answer their questions before letting them see Liam. After the nanny let Finn look at Liam's rearmost figures, he marveled over how well the case was doing only a couple hours after the surgery. Bill recapitulated the whole situation with Grace and the croaker. She'd brought in from out of the country, though he couldn't flash back the other croaker's name. Due to the experimental nature of the procedure, Bill explained that it couldn't be at the sanitarium. Nonetheless, Bill claimed it was a fully professional experience and was hopeful about the excrescence being completely gone. Finn kept trying to get further information on the surgery on Friday's B&B occasion, but Bill acted like it didn't matter as long as Liam had a chance to live. Once Liam stirred awake, he was pleased to see Steffi and Hope being at his bedside. Liam was swimmy and didn't flash back where he was at first, but he got a memorial about the procedure and how he'd settled in the Spencer manse. At Forrester Creations, Brooke Logan set up Taylor Hayes embracing Ridge Forrester before they all rehashed the Luna drama and what a idol Liam was. Still, the three of them were agonized over Liam's inoperable brain excrescence since they assumed the end was still coming soon. Although Taylor and Brooke allowed perhaps the Italy trip should be laid over due to Liam's circumstances, Ridge wanted to stick to the plan for now. However, they could rethink if effects took a bad turn before they left. In the design office, Katie Logan joined Electra Forrester and Will Spencer as they bandied Liam's idol status. Of course, they also bandied Liam's brewing grim fate, which Will plotted to accept. Will claimed they'd pursue every possible option and got emotional since he didn't want to lose his family, so Katie gave him a clinch. Back at Bill's place, he got a textbook from Grace about the MRI results. Bill told Liam, Finn, Hope and Steffi that the checkup was clean, so the excrescence had been 100% removed and Liam had good perimeters. There were plenitude of happy responses each around, and indeed Finn made a comment about medical history being made. Still, Finn's expression eventually grew more reflective while Liam, Bill, Hope and Steffi celebrated. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers update for Friday, July 18th, reveals that Liam Spencer will get 3 critical callers, so John Finnegan, Steffi Forrester and Hope Logan will throw questions at Bill Spencer once they show up. Now that Liam is resting comfortably at the Spencer manse, Bill's hoping the MRI results will confirm that the excrescence was entirely removed. While Bill awaits those results, he'll drink Hope, Steffi, and Finn into his home. Once the 3 of them ask to see Liam, Bill will advise that he's still weak and swimmy from his procedure. Finn will admit he's still looking for some clarity about that, and Steffi will echo the idea by talking about how confused they all are. Since Finn would have helped Bill sort through the data if he'd known about this, he'll ask why Bill didn't consult with him. Bill will argue that there wasn't time for debate since Grace Buckingham said this could work and they just decided to go for it. After Bill insists he'd do anything to save his son's life, Hope will be glad to hear that. Hope wanted Liam to open up about his brain excrescence sooner, so she'll be thankful that Bill is supporting Liam now. Indeed so, B&B spoilers say Hope, Steffi, and Finn will have plenty further enterprises. Still, the most important thing will be seeing Liam with their own eyes and making sure he's okay. Once Bill lets Steffi, Hope and Finn in Liam's room, they'll talk to him, indeed if he isn't really coherent enough to carry on important of a discussion right now. Finn won't rest until he makes sense of this experimental treatment situation, so he'll continue to caff. Bill and may want to look at Liam's MRI results. However, he may be skeptical of any total excrescence junking evidence, if those results come in while Finn's at the house. As for Grace, it looks like she'll shoot that $1 million to the person she owes since she's easily part of a fiddle. Grace will transfer Bill's plutocrat and get someone off her reverse since she's been facing some importunity. Although Bill may celebrate substantiation of Liam's cure, the verity is Liam was presumably tricked from the launch. It's doubtful Liam ever had excrescence, and all his capsules probably just mimicked worsening symptoms to pave the way for this phony treatment. Over with Taylor Hayes and Brooke Logan, they'll be on the same side for formerly. Ridge Forrester will see Brooke and Taylor getting along since they'll all be cheering on Liam's recovery. Unfortunately, it'll be the calm before the storm since Ridge is on the verge of a major love life shakeup, bone. That'll leave Taylor brokenhearted down the road. The storm outside mirrored the firestorm brewing inside Spencer Publications. Bill Spencer stood like a towering force behind his glass desk, staring out at the rain-soaked skyline, unaware that the real thunder was about to crash inside the walls of his empire. A father who had just come to terms with his son's supposed terminal illness was about to hear words that would shake the very foundation of his world. Finn Forrester, soaked from the downpour, stood in the doorway of Bill's office. His hands clenched at his sides, his breath shallow but determined. Behind those calm blue eyes raged a truth too toxic to bottle up any longer. This wasn't just about medicine. This was about justice. About lies. About betrayal so cruel it could destroy lives. She lied, Finn said, his voice cutting through the silence like a scalpel. Liam doesn't have a brain tumor. He never did. And Grace Buckingham knew it the entire time. Bill turned slowly, disbelief clouding his eyes. What the hell did you just say? Finn stepped forward, his voice unwavering now, baptizing the room in revelation. The MRI scans were manipulated. The experimental surgery? A lie. Grace and that other doctor, Randall, fabricated the entire diagnosis. Liam's been drugged, duped, and used. This was never about saving him, it was about controlling him, maybe even punishing him. And you, Bill, you were played. The words struck like lightning. Bill's fist slammed against the desk. Played? I paid. Millions. I nearly buried my son alive thinking he was on borrowed time. Grace swore to me, she looked me in the eye and swore Liam had a malignant tumor. Finn nodded grimly. She fooled us all. But now we're dealing with something bigger. This wasn't just malpractice. This was premeditated fraud. Liam was the pawn in a much larger game. And that was when the baptism began. The word baptism didn't mean water and roses here. It meant a reckoning. The washing away of lies by a flood of righteous anger and raw truth. Finn had come not just to expose Grace, but to spark a war. We have to act fast, Finn said, pacing as Bill stood frozen in his storm of rage. Grace is already covering her tracks. Randall's disappeared. The digital scans are being wiped. But I have backups. I saved the original files, I saw the discrepancies. The tumor markers were photoshopped, someone literally edited the scan to fake Liam's cancer. I confronted Grace, and she threatened me. That pulled Bill out of his trance. She threatened you? He growled. She said if I didn't back off, she'd leak something about Steffi, something that could ruin her reputation at the hospital. She's playing dirty. And if we don't stop her now, Liam may never fully recover, not just physically, but mentally. He thinks he's dying, Bill. He's grieving his own life. Meanwhile, across town, Liam Spencer lay in a hospital bed, pale and sedated. Hope Logan sat by his side, her hands clutching his, whispering encouraging words as her tears fell silently. You're going to beat this, she murmured. You have to. We all love you. I love you. But her voice wavered. Something inside her felt wrong. Liam had moments of clarity, yes, but he also said strange things, slurred words, fragmented memories, confusion about time. Was it the tumor? Or, was it the medication? Hope looked up as Steffi entered quietly, her expression conflicted. I had a conversation with Finn, Steffi began, her voice barely above a whisper. Hope, there's something you need to know. Back in the office, the storm reached its crescendo. Bill was on the phone with Justin Barber. I want her license suspended. I want her arrested. Do you hear me, Justin? She lied to me about my son's life. If Grace Buckingham isn't in jail by tonight, then I'm burning down every hospital she's ever worked at. But Finn held up a hand. We can't move too fast. We need to be strategic. If she senses we're coming for her, she'll disappear. We need a plan, and someone to draw her out. Bill narrowed his eyes. Then we give her what she wants, a chance to finish what she started. Let her think we still believe the tumor is real. I'll play the grieving father. You keep up the doctor act. And meanwhile, we'll trap her. And so it began. They called it a baptism because everyone involved would come out of it changed. Hope and Steffi teamed up, unlikely allies in the war for truth. Finn played the role of double agent, feeding Grace false data while secretly working with Ridge and Brooke to dig up her past. Turns out, Grace had done something similar before, years ago, overseas, under a different name. But the stakes rose even higher when Grace kidnapped Zoe, threatening to kill her unless the investigation stopped. That's when angry threats turned into full-blown action. Carter Walton, furious and heartbroken, cornered Grace at a hotel near the airport. You used your daughter as leverage? Carter shouted. You drugged Liam, framed a lie, and now this? You're not a doctor, you're a monster. Grace, cornered and crumbling, screamed back, he deserved it. After what Liam did to my daughter, he deserved to suffer. But Carter wasn't having it. You think this is justice? You'll rot in prison for what you did. This isn't over. It's just beginning. By the time the police arrived, Zoe was safe, Grace was cuffed, and Liam was waking up, confused, but finally clear-headed. The drugs were wearing off. The tumor no longer a ghost haunting him. Finn stood beside him, ready to tell the truth. You were never dying, Liam, he said gently. You were poisoned, by lies, by deception. But you're coming back now. And we'll make sure they never do this to anyone else. Liam blinked. What about Grace? Finn exchanged a look with Hope, who nodded silently, tears in her eyes. She'll never hurt anyone again. The baptism had been violent, yes. Filled with encouraging whispers at hospital bedsides and angry threats shouted in hotel lobbies and law offices. But in the end, it had washed away the deception. Bill Spencer stood over Grace as she was led away in handcuffs. You messed with the wrong family, he spat. I swear to God, if my son ever even sees your name again, I'll make sure you vanish off the face of the earth. And as the doors closed behind her, the storm finally ended. But the aftershocks would ripple forever. The air at the Spencer estate felt unusually heavy that morning, a strange silence cloaking the halls despite the good news that had just arrived. Liam Spencer, once feared to be living on borrowed time, was now tumor-free according to the latest brain scan, but what should have been a moment of peace turned into a boiling cauldron of questions, uneasy alliances, and desperate hope. Bill Spencer stood outside Liam's room like a sentinel guarding a secret, his face masking too much concern for a man who had just been told his son was saved, and inside that room, the air was sterile and too quiet except for the soft murmurs of the attending nurse who monitored Liam's vitals, while Bill's phone buzzed. Another cryptic message from Grace Buckingham, the mysterious doctor whose miracle procedure had allegedly saved Liam's life, and though the scan showed a clean brain and Bill wanted to believe that his boy had just dodged death, something gnawed at Finn's instincts as a doctor, a father, and a man unwilling to accept things at face value, especially when the procedure had taken place off the grid with a foreign surgeon whose credentials were murky at best. And as Bill opened the door to let in the three visitors, John Finn Finnegan, Hope Logan, and Steffi Forrester, the emotional temperature of the mansion shifted like a summer storm, their presence both a comfort and a catalyst for the interrogation to come, and as they stood in the doorway, eyes darting between Liam's unconscious body and Bill's cagey demeanor, the questions poured out like thunderclaps. What happened? Why was Finn not consulted? Who was the mystery doctor? And Bill, trying to play the hero, said he had no time to wait, no time to debate when Liam's life was on the line, and though his tone was calm, Hope's eyes flashed with restrained fury, her voice cracking as she told Bill that Liam should have never been left out of his own choices, and Steffi, arms crossed, seething just beneath the surface, demanded to know whether this cure came with irreversible consequences, especially if the price of Liam's survival was a deeper deception, and Finn's medical mind couldn't shake the incongruity between Liam's prior scans and this miraculous outcome. Tumors don't vanish overnight, especially not inoperable ones, and certainly not under mystery treatments done in secret locations, and still Bill pressed on, saying he'd sell his soul if it meant saving Liam, that he didn't regret spending the $1 million Grace requested, even if it meant trusting a stranger, because love for a child eclipses logic, but that didn't stop the tremble in his voice when Finn asked for the MRI files himself, and while the celebration swelled around Liam's bedside as he groggily opened his eyes and smiled weakly at the faces he loved most, Hope brushing a tear from her cheek, Steffi squeezing his hand, Finn masking his unease with a nod, the undercurrent of danger lingered, for Grace's message hadn't just been about clean scans. It was a confirmation that the money had been transferred, that her debt was cleared, and as Bill's mind raced, he remembered Grace's panicked eyes the night of the surgery, the urgency in her tone when she mentioned consequences far worse than prison if she didn't pay up, and somewhere across town, in a nondescript motel room, Grace wept as she wired the funds to an anonymous account, the weight of her deception sinking in, because the truth was, Liam may never have had a tumor at all, and the so-called symptoms were part of a pharmaceutical manipulation designed to trigger side effects that mimicked brain degeneration. And as Brooke Logan stood at Forrester Creations watching Taylor Hayes and Ridge Forrester embrace with solemnity, she couldn't help but reflect on the cruel trick fate played on them all, thinking Liam was dying, embracing his legacy as a hero, when he might have just been a pawn in a grotesque con job. And while Taylor gently suggested postponing the planned Italy trip due to Liam's supposed health crisis, Ridge's stubbornness kicked in, insisting they stay the course, believing, wrongly, that the worst had passed, not knowing the real storm hadn't even started yet. And in the design office, Electra Forrester and Katie Logan tried to comfort a tearful Will Spencer, who spoke of Liam as if he'd already died, and Katie hugged her son tightly, vowing that they would keep fighting no matter what, her words intended to soothe, but laced with dread she couldn't shake. And as news spread across town that Liam's scan was clean, celebration erupted, but Finn's eyes betrayed the growing suspicion in his gut, the kind that screamed at a trained surgeon that something was not just off, it was wrong. And back at the mansion, Finn stayed behind as the others left the room, staring at Liam's medical file, at the MRI, at the scan that was too perfect, margins too clean, progress too fast, and then Bill's phone rang again, this time with no name, just a voice on the other end saying, "Tell Grace the debt is paid, but if she thinks we're done, she's wrong." And Bill froze, realizing that this baptism of healing might be nothing more than the opening act in a much darker play, and somewhere across the ocean, in a luxury suite lit only by candlelight, the mysterious doctor who performed the surgery raised a glass of wine, laughing softly to himself while reading an encrypted file, Liam's name, medical records, DNA strand breakdowns, and whispered, "Phase 2 begins," just as Brooke received a strange envelope at Forrester with no return address, containing only a single phrase written in bold red ink, "Don't trust the scan," and as she read those words, her breath caught. And for the first time since the ordeal began, Brooke knew they were being played, and she'd seen enough in her lifetime to recognize a fraud when she felt it in her bones, and as she turned to Ridge and Taylor, both still caught in the illusion of unity, she whispered the first warning shot, "This isn't over." And back at the mansion, Liam smiled at Hope and Steffi. But behind his eyes was something haunted, something that didn't belong, and Finn saw it too, the subtle twitch, the tremble in his fingers, the way Liam blinked twice before speaking, as if something inside him was misfiring, and that was when Finn made a silent vow, he'd uncover the truth if it was the last thing he did, because if this was what healing looked like, then hell had just dressed up in a white coat and a surgical mask, and he wouldn't let another life fall victim to lies wrapped in hope, even if it meant tearing down Bill, confronting Grace, and exposing the monster behind the miracle, because this baptism had only just begun, and the water was filled with blood, and those encouraging words of hope. They'd soon give way to angry threats, betrayal, and a reckoning no one at Forrester or Spencer could escape.